All right, WDGR Society, listen up. Community Game Night continues on Friday, February 21st from 8 p.m. to midnight with Battlefield 1 on PlayStation 4. Jump in a Mark V landship and man the gunner position as we plow our way into enemy territory. We'll be charging the beaches of Cape Hells while capturing bases in Conquest, lobbing grenades in a French chateau as we arm bomb stations in Rush, and preparing for cataclysmic assaults as we push through the trenches at St. Quentin Scar. Squad up with us for a night of dodging airplane grenades, Zeppelin airstrikes, and military shovels to the chest. For more details, be sure to find us on Discord, as well as our website, WDGRPodcast.com. I'll see you guys on the battlefield.
So what do they use? Is that like another kind of like nut milk kind of thing?
A lot of them will use different things like that. This particular one is, oh man, I forget actually, because a lot of them are just so different. Oh. Like I have currently in the fridge like soy milk yogurts. I have coconut milk yogurts. I have cashew milk ice cream. I've got like mung bean like egg beaters. I haven't even tried that yet.
Stop.
Yeah.
Explain.
Yeah, dude, I don't even know. It's called like just egg or something like that. It's like a little container that you would imagine. It kind of looks like a large, like king size or like a family size, like mustard container. Mm-hmm. Again, like a squeeze bottle, but it's like some sort of mung bean egg substitute that's in there. And I showed it to Lauren and she's like, oh my God, I'm going to vomit. And it just looks like liquid eggs. It doesn't look gross. It's just the fact that I think she's aware that there's mung beans in there. And just the word mung, I think, disturbs her.
Yeah, I mean, like... mung beans, I'm sure, are delicious, and I'm sure I've eaten them in plenty of things that I've both realized and have not realized that they were in. But if you want people to like throw up in their mouth when they hear your product, name it mung bean.
Exactly. It just doesn't sound appetizing.
No.
No one's going to be like, oh, dude, did you try like the mung bean soup? You're going to be like, dude, don't you ever say that word again. Yeah.
No,
I don't care how good it is, dude. I fucking hate that word. So I have that, and
is the mung bean soup moist?
Oh, I don't know. Probably,
because a lot of people hate.
Maybe it's like mealy.
A lot of people hate that word, moist.
Yeah, and mealy.
Mealy doesn't bother me.
Mealy, moist, and mung. That's the episode title.
Hey everybody, welcome to Will and Drew's Gaming Retrospective. You're listening to episode 64 for the week of February 16th, 2020. I'm your host, Drew, and I am joined by newly Christian vegan, Will.
Dude, the sun was out today.
Was it?
Yeah. It's unfortunate that you are not aware of this fact, but yes, it was out, and it was quite nice.
You know, I spent a somewhat reasonable amount of time in and out of a house today, but didn't get to enjoy any of it. How are you, buddy?
I'm well, man. I'm here. It's Monday evening. I've had some cashew milk ice cream and snickerdoodle flavor, and I'm really excited to kind of dive into today's episode. It's going to be quite unique.
Yeah, I'm sorry about that. I do owe Will a legitimate apology for this because we had a bunch of mailbag questions, and I'm like, we had like questions that people missed from last episode, but they kind of threw in like last minute, and I'm like, I see 2 questions come in. I'm like, yeah, hey, we need more questions for Monday, so go ahead and start throwing them in there, and then maybe if we get enough, we can do an entire episode of listener mail without even discussing it with Will.
Yeah, you know what? I forgot about that when, like, right when you started saying like I owe you an apology. I was like, for what? And then right when you mentioned that, I was like, oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah, you fucking better apologize.
Yeah, God damn it.
Yeah, I'm sorry. But I think we have a pretty good episode here, though. We got a lot of really good questions, and I'm looking forward to kind of just, bullshitting about stuff like this. There's a couple that I want to dive in kind of deep, and then there's a couple of them that are kind of fluffy.
Same.
And that's fine,
Yeah, I'm okay with that. How are you?
Do you really want the answer to that question?
Dude, I am chomping at the bit to find out.
It's been a day. I don't even know where to begin. Like, my father sent me a text message last week, and he's my father's Stumpy Vendetta. Right? Just to kind of reiterate for the listeners, my father,
unforgettable.
My father is the Stumpy Vendetta. That's his name. And he sends me a message. He's like, "Hey, I'm going to be putting a new vanity in the bathroom and a new sink. I could use some help, and you could learn how to do it while you're helping." And I'm like, "Well, that sounds great." Because, you know, Nikki and I have been wanting to kind of remodel the bathroom. You know, we put up some new paint in there, but we do want to put in a new vanity at some point. We'll get a new sink to go with it, put in new flooring. You know, we have things that we want to do in there. So I'm like, this is a great opportunity for me to spend some quality time with my pops and learn how to do this shit. But as we've discussed, I believe, in the past on this show, anytime my father asks for help, I'll say to him, "Hey, Dad, how long is this going to take? I got a lot of shit I want to do today." 2 hours at most.
Uh-huh.
That is bold-faced fucking lie. And
what happened?
It's not his fault.
Okay.
All right. I am in no way blaming him for the shit show that followed today. But it was a shit show. All right. So the sink that we have, first of all, my parents have well water.
Okay.
And maybe it's you know, I don't know much about well water, but my parents have said over the years that it kind of, there's a lot of minerals in it that kind of deteriorate pipes quicker than like normal city water would, right?
Okay.
I think they're just too cheap to buy the proper filters. Now that I'm older and I kind of have a better understanding of this, I think that they just kind of accepted over the years that they're just going to have to pay for plumbers nonstop instead of like, investing in the proper equipment to make it so that their water doesn't like destroy, copper pipes and whatever.
Uh-huh.
So I'm using that as a preface because what follows is a direct result of all this. So we go into the bathroom and my father, he's like telling me, all right, well, we got to disconnect the hoses from the shutoff valves, So how familiar are you with like the plumbing underneath your sink? Like,
not very familiar at all.
All right. So basically you have two pumps or two pipes that come out of the wall that carry your water. One's hot water, one's cold water. And then there's a drain coming from the bottom of your sink that also goes into the wall that goes into ultimately your sewage system, right? These two pipes that bring water in have shut-off valves in them. And if you look down next to your toilet, you'll see the same kind of thing. It's just a knob that you could turn to close the valve so that if you're working on the toilet, for example, the water doesn't continually run. You could shut that valve off. You could take the toilet apart, put it back together, turn the valve on, and theoretically everything should go great. Same concept with the sink, right? You shut off the valve at the bottom, underneath the sink, and it kills the water coming to that pipe so that anything after that valve you can work on. Take the hoses off the sink, take the sink apart, take the whole sink out, whatever, and everything will be hunky-dory. So we shut off the valves to both the hot and the cold water. And I grab a wrench and I undo. I'm laying on the floor on my side, right? And I'm loosening up the nut for the cold water. I take that off. Everything's fine. And then I go to the hot water. And I give it a turn, and the whole fucking pipe snaps.
Oh, Jesus.
And it snaps before the valve.
Oh, no.
Have you ever seen a cartoon where there's a plumber, and he goes into the kitchen, he starts looking around underneath the sink, he grabs his wrench, he does a thing, and all of a sudden, a flood of water hits him in the face, and he's flailing his arms.
Yes.
That is modeled after real life.
Oh, goodness.
That happened to me. And I'm laying on the floor, and all of a sudden a stream of hot water hits me in the fucking face.
Oh, my God, no.
And I'm frantically using my hands to try to cover up the pipe as the water is getting hotter and hotter. And my father is running downstairs as fast as he can. He's like 65 years old. He's running downstairs as fast as he can to get to the water main to shut off the water to the whole house. Meanwhile, I'm like yelling. I'm like, ah, ah, ah! I'm drenched. Because I was laying on my left like shoulder sideways. The entire left side of my body is just completely soaked.
Oh my God. What a disaster.
That's the start of it.
Oh no.
So we had to call a plumber to come in because now the pipe is broken. Once the pipe breaks, this is beyond our means, right?
Yeah, I mean, I can't see how you could fix that.
Right. You need to replace the pipe. You need to, a lot of times you might actually need to get like a blowtorch to go in there with that. We don't have the tools to do that. Anything after the shutoff valve, we can take care of. Most homeowners can, but once you get to the point where it's before the shutoff valve, you really need a plumber. So we call a plumber. We're sitting around. I'm sorry. Let me back up a little bit. So we shut off the water. We clean up the mess, and then we're like, well, we're gonna have to get a plumber in here, but we might as well make his life easy. So let's get this vanity out of the fucking way, right? So that we remove the old sink. We move the vanity out. This whole thing is it's so old, it's practically falling apart at this point anyway. We get it outside, and then we come back inside, and we look at the floor. Now, my parents moved into the house when I was, 1 year old, 2 years old. So, they've been in this house since, 1984, 1985.
Okay.
All right. And they saw something underneath the vanity that they had never seen before. And it was this, pale blue and sky blue tile, actual tiny little pieces of tile. It's probably one of the first. I mean, we don't even know how long it's been there, at least as long as they've been in the house. They never even knew it existed. So all right, well, now that the vanity is out, we have basically this old ass tile and a gaping discrepancy in the height of the floor. So we got to pull this tile up and then put down matching floor, so that everything is nice and even. And then when you look at it, you don't see the floor is different, right? So we scrape up the tile. I spend a lot of time doing that, and that went well, I guess. You're on your hands and knees with a soaking wet shirt scraping up tile.
Good, honest work.
Good, honest work. I earned my man card today, so fuck you all.
You definitely did. It's funny, just to interject real quick, for some reason over the weekend, I thought about you installing that toilet, and then you tweeted, "I am man."
Yeah. Well,
so today was I guess part 2 of that.
Yeah, it's just another punch on the card, my friend.
Yeah.
So I scrape up all that tile, and then the plumber comes in. We sweep up, we vacuum everything up, and the plumber comes in. He does his work, right? He's a nice guy. He did pretty good work, but he of course he got there and he didn't have all the parts he needed. He needed to go back.
Oh my God!
Parts.
Every fucking time,
right? So he goes down. He goes, he disappears for an hour. He comes back. He's got everything he needs. It takes him maybe another half hour once he's there and he's done, right? Now, I got to my parents' house at 9:30. I was supposed to be there a couple of hours, and I had a whole day planned. I had shit I really wanted to do. By the time the plumber's done, it's 3:00.
Oh, jeez.
Now, we still have to finish laying down the floor so that the floor is level. We have to move the vanity in, and then we have to hook the new sink up to the pipes that this guy, the new pipes that this guy installed. So my father does the flooring. He finishes that up. And then we start hooking up the pipes. And of course, none of the pipes are the right fucking size. So I was going up and down the stairs, cutting this PVC pipe to length so it would fit in the fucking drainage. And then we hook up the water and we hook up the hot water. I go to turn the hot water on. Fucking water sprays me in the face again.
Oh, jeez. All right.
So we turn it off. At least this time, it's not broken. It's just something's not right. Maybe the thing's not sitting right. The hose doesn't have the right washer in it or whatever. We figure that out. We try it again. This time, there's no water coming out of the hose. All right, great. Hot water's on. Cold water's on. Let's turn on the faucet. Nothing.
Oh, isn't it the worst?
No fucking water came out, drips of water came out of the faucet.
Oh. So typical, man. I feel like, I mean, I don't really know much about this at all, but I feel like anytime like you try and like fix something, it just never fucking works the right time.
It never does, man. And like, it took us 8 hours to get to that point. And this is at like 5:30. My father and I like look at each other. We're both like so like just broken down by this entire process at this point.
So defeated.
Just completely defeated. And he's like, I'm done. I can't do any more. I'm like, good, because I'm done too. I got to go. I got to record a podcast. I've had enough. My day's fucked.
You could have been there all night.
Yeah, I mean, if we didn't have this going, well, I was done anyway. I was gonna leave. I'm like, I got to go. I had to draw the line somewhere.
Yeah.
You know, because like I don't mind helping them, and I apologize to using this as like a therapy session.
Dude, it's totally fine, man.
I don't mind helping out, but like, I feel like my parents just have this vision of me like sitting on my ass playing video games all day and not doing anything else.
Dude, that's so it, man. I think sometimes my sister sees that in me too. Like, I've grown so much. Like, I'm nearly 5 years old.
Yeah.
And sometimes I still think that she thinks that all I do is like kind of just play games when I get home. Like, even though I'm married and I play piano and I do all this other shit that she does know about, she still sees it as like I'm the little brother who like is into gaming, and I do like a gaming podcast, and I'm like a little nerd when I get home. Like, you know, it's that is not my life. That's my life maybe on a Monday evening for an hour and a half, but
right, exactly.
Other than that, like, it's pretty fucking busy.
Right.
But it's a real thing, man. Like, everything that you're talking about, like helping out a parent and or parents can be such an all-day affair, because they generally have that vision of you, and they also will try to convince you to do other things while you're there.
Well, yeah, I mean, like, you know, I had breakfast, I had lunch with them, and like, you know, yeah, it was just in their kitchen. It wasn't anything crazy. Like, they had to feed me because I'd been there all fucking day. But I mean, like, you know, it's even when it's just a quick visit to like pick something up, it's never just a quick visit to pick something up.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
it never is, man.
You know, or it's like my father would say, "Hey, man, I need your help doing something." Well, I'm the only child. I don't have a brother or sister. You know, there's no other family. I'm it, and that's fine. Like, I'm cool with that. But like, I really just need to come to terms with the fact that whenever I agree to do something with them, that's my day. No matter how long it should take, that's my day.
Yeah, and it's a double-edged sword, because like you want to help them out because it's your parents, but in the same breath, it's impossible to not look at the other side and say, "God damn it, dude, there goes my fucking day." And
my father couldn't have done this by himself, point blank. Like, you know, he needs help carrying that vanity up the stairs. It's not heavy, but it is awkward. And my mom's disabled. She had like, you know, really bad back surgery done last year. You know, so she's not going to be, she's not in a position to help him. Like, he needs me. And like, that's fine. Like, I don't have a problem with that. But I just like, you know, I need to wrap my mind around the fact that like, when I said to him, "How long will this take?" I already knew the answer.
Mm-hmm. It's going to take all day.
I should never have even asked. So now I've started journaling in the past like weekend, and I had this list of all these things that I was going to do, and I didn't do any of them. And technically, I didn't even do the one thing that I knew I was going to do, because we didn't get the job done. That sink does not work.
Ugh.
And now he's on his own, because now I start my work week, and there's no way I can help him.
Yep, and that's usually how it goes. That's a tough predicament to be in, man. A list of things that you passionately really want to do, and the one thing that took you away from those things didn't get completed either. Mm-hmm. That's a tough spot.
Yeah.
But you have to look at it from the perspective of, well, at least I went over there. I carved out pretty much my whole day to help him out, and it's my fucking dad, and you know, we got somewhere with it. And that's really all you can do.
I feel like he got to a point where, like, okay, from here, he can either do it himself, or if he's unable to resolve the issue on his own, which is possible, you know, he may need to call that plumber back. At least he's in a spot now where he can do that. You know, the plumber isn't going to help him move the vanity. The plumber isn't going to help put the sink in, but the plumber will fix the pipes.
Yeah, you got to have that like respect for those guys, because sometimes it's annoying how like hands off they are with something that's just slightly outside of their like job requirement.
Oh yeah.
Because they'll say stuff like pretty candidly. They'll be like, "Oh yeah, that's I don't do syncs."
Because like they're setting themselves up for a world of hurt if something goes wrong.
They are. So
You
like
know?
it's a respect thing where you get like irritated on the moment. You're like, God, fucking this dude sucks.
Right.
And then in the same breath, you're like, you know what? No, he doesn't. Like,
Right.
Because you have to just stop back and you have to think about it for a second.
Well, like when I was working in customer service, we would get that a lot. It's like, hey, can you help me hook up my printer? No, that's not what we do. I can help you make sure your internet works and your phone works and your TV works, but I am not your printer guy. And the reason being is like we would have people that would do that. Like I might know how to do it. I probably could help them do it. But if I tell them to do something and it fucks up their computer, well, guess what? That's a lawsuit.
Yeah, that's the only problem though. Is like everybody's so paranoid of a lawsuit in this country. Hopefully we can move past that, but that's another podcast.
Anyway.
Well, that is certainly a day, man. That is a case of the worst Monday ever. It's
a pretty bad Monday. And hopefully that badness does not persist throughout this episode. I'm still a little bitter and salty that my day got fucked. I had big plans. I had chores that I had to do, and all of it's on the back burner now, and it's going to get kind of peppered throughout the week, and this is why I'm stressed. But hey, anyway.
Yeah, I mean, fuck. I wish I had something like really positive to say besides like just keep pressing on, but that's all you're going to be able to do. Just try to, like you said, pepper it throughout the week, and hopefully you'll be able to like catch up with it.
Yeah, hopefully. Anyway, thanks everybody for tuning in to Will and Drew's Gaming Retrospective. I appreciate you listening to me, bitch.
Hey, our fans like stories.
For some strange reason, yes, they
do. They like hearing about stumps.
If you do not wish to hear me talk about Stumpy Vendetta, please swing on by our social media at WDGRPodcast on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. You can stop on by our Discord and wax poetic with me about your own Stumpy Vendettas. I'm sure everybody's got one.
I wish I did.
Oh, man, I'm sorry. That was the wrong response from me. But anyway, yeah, man, come on by, say hi. We have a Discord room where we love to chat with our fans and talk about video games and all other kinds of crazy shit. Will, if somebody would like to follow you on social media, how can they do so?
Sure. Will_gear. And that's on Twitter only.
Yes. Is that the only place that they can find you?
Yeah. So, I mean, I might as well just kind of apologize now. So this entire podcast, I have never specified where you can find me. So it's Will_gear on, is it Instagram? No, it's
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, Jesus. I'm looking at too many things right now. It's going to be Discord, it's going to be Twitter, and that's it. My Instagram, I will admit, it is private.
That's okay.
It is not public, so I have not been handing out that handle. But I may change that. But for now, you can find me on Twitter. I'm very active on there. I retweet a ton. I don't tweet, but I do retweet. And I will tag people and things. I look at it daily. Feel free to add me. I will not block you. And it is, I think it's public. Yeah, I think my Twitter is public. Yeah, it definitely is. So
yeah, I couldn't tell you.
Yeah, so Discord, Will_gear, and Twitter.
Cool, man. You can follow me at ScienceStorm. My Instagram is public, but I don't use it, so hooray. And yeah, I'm bad at social media. That's what it boils down to. Will, have you been playing anything lately?
A little bit of Gravity Rush, but not so much. I also did not get a lot done this weekend. I ended up doing a few other things that were relatively important, but unfortunately, I did not carve out enough time for gaming. So again, this week is going to be the goal to pepper it in just like your to-do list. So yeah, it's kind of a short answer. Not a whole lot, but Gravity Rush 2 is kind of my main focus at the moment. Hopefully, I will not divert from that. You never know, knowing me. But yeah, I'm very enthusiastic to get back to it.
Cool. It sounds like it's a really fun game. I enjoyed reading your WCG about it too. It's one of those games that I've kind of always wanted to check out, and I was waiting for like the price to be right, and I just haven't done it.
Yeah, it's an odd game. You know, it's not exactly accessible. You know, it's definitely a WCG. It's definitely, you know, something that's a little bit different. But as everybody knows, it's what I gravitate towards. It's not a AAA title that you can pick up and play. You have to be okay with kind of choosing something that's very unique and different here. But I still think it's worth a shot. And Joe had actually mentioned to me recently in a private chat that he has a really hard time convincing anybody to play that game because
Why?
it's. I don't know if he really specified. I think he was just saying because it is. I think he was leaning towards exactly what I just said because it is a little bit different. It's kind of like anime-ish, and yeah, I don't know, man. I don't think he really said why, but I don't think he really had to. I think a lot of those kind of games are not hugely accessible. However, Persona 5 apparently was a masterpiece. I haven't played it, but I'm kind of intrigued to play it, and I'll explain a little bit later in the show.
Yeah, Persona 5 is a game I put maybe 30 hours in and barely scratched the surface of.
Wow.
I would like to circle back to it at some point. It's got a lot of character to it. It is a 100+ hour game.
Wow, I had no idea it was that long.
Yeah, that game is no joke. Was Joe talking about that with you as well, or?
No, I was going to explain later in the show. I mean, fuck it, I'll just explain now. So yeah. I think it was Saturday or Sunday night. I was watching YouTube in bed, and I was watching one of my favorite channels, which is PlayStation Access, I believe, and it's a UK group of guys and girls that talk about everything PlayStation, and they were talking about some of their favorite games of, I think, the decade or something like that. And a couple of them mentioned Persona 5. And I've known about this game. I've known about the reception and how well it's done. And when they kind of did like a little bit of a deep dive into why they liked it, I was pretty intrigued. And one of the guys was pointing out things that I find only I would point out, which is all like the little details about things that most people overlook. So he was saying, he's like, one of my favorite things about the game is just pausing the game and getting to the menu and shuffling around from options to sound and seeing this particular character kind of pose and change motions every time you select something else. So a small thing, but once they showed it, you know, happen, I was like, wow, this is totally like how I would review a game. This is how I would talk about like the cool aspects of a game. So I think that really inspired me to pay a little bit more closer attention to it.
There have been a number of tracks from the soundtrack that I've shared as Music Mondays.
Yes.
I don't know if you've listened to them, but you should. They're really unique for a video game. The soundtrack has like a very like pop jazz kind of vibe to it. And it's like, it's the kind of thing that like gets stuck in your head and won't leave for like a week.
That's good and bad.
Yeah, but I mean, it's not like annoying. Like, they're good songs.
Yeah, I heard the soundtrack is really, really worthwhile.
Totally. I can't recommend it enough. Like, especially like the battle themes and stuff. There's some crazy shit going on there. It's just very, very different from, I think, anything that's out there right now. You know, honestly. Even
just the game looks very.
It's 100%. It's like stylized. Just everything is like about that game just oozes charisma.
Yeah, and I think that's really why I should have. Oh my god! I hope this guy does not listen to the show, but I'm going to have to reveal this because I just can't lie. So when I was working at Men's Warehouse, this dude, I'm not going to say his name, but this dude who was really into anime and games, like we got along well. And long story short, he bought me a brand new copy of Persona 5, shrink wrapped everything.
Yeah.
And I traded that fucking thing in.
Oh, man.
I'm pretty sure I opened it. I opened up the case. I looked at the disc. I closed it up and thought, I don't know if this game's for me. I swear to God, that's what I did. And I brought it to GameStop and I got like 20 or like $30 for it.
Yeah.
And I just made this weird, bold decision where I was like, this looks like very like anime-ish, and I'm not really like an anime guy so much anymore. And I just wasn't so sure like if it was going to be for me. And I did very, very little research to prove that.
Mm-hmm.
And I just kind of tossed it. And I feel really bad because he gifted it to me. And instead of me being like, hey, man, like, this is really nice of you, but I don't know if it's going to be for me, I took it and traded it. So if you are listening, I'm sorry. I probably will get the game again because now I am interested. So yeah, that's my little story with Persona 5.
You let him down, man. You're a terrible person.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like I ever told him, but
you just did.
I just did. If he listens to the show, which he might, like I said in advance, I'm sorry, but it's just kind of what happened.
Yeah. All right. Well, that was depressing.
Yeah, a little bit.
Oh man. So yeah. I guess we should kind of pivot into our main topic, which is a lot of main topics. It's going to be a really unique episode. I'm looking forward to seeing what we have here, man. Yeah,
we're going to be taking a cannonball plunge into the mailbag here, and we've got quite a stuffed bag. So a lot of really good questions. Actually, there was quite a few in here that I was very impressed with.
Do you want to just start from the top and work our way down, or do you want to kind of like jump around a little bit and try to piece it together?
We can start from the top.
All right.
I think that'll be fine, and if we go off into tangents a little bit, that's fine. It usually will.
We do normally have our tangents, don't we? All right, so let's start with the top. Patrick from the Retrospectives podcast. He goes by YMMOC. So a couple, I guess I should preface this, maybe a month or so ago, we kind of got into a bit of a discussion on the Discord about about exclusive games and platforms. And it says, you never had a discussion about exclusives as far as I remember. I was very mad when you both called for strong Xbox One exclusives. From a consumer point of view, it is far, far better for titles to be multi-platform to give us the choice of how to play the game. How do you justify your ridiculous stance? And he's joking with that, but he's not joking.
Right. That's true.
So first of all, like, where do you stand with this? I know where I stand. Where do you stand?
So I read this, and I did have to kind of channel back, kind of what we talked about, and I had to think carefully about how I answered, and I'm pretty sure that I did say that I wanted to see some pretty strong exclusives from the PS5 and the new Xbox.
Yes.
And I remember us clearly having a discussion about that, and it was basically about, the new consoles and how we wanted the launch to happen. And I think what happened is I sort of tied in strong launch titles mixed with exclusives, and it might have gotten slightly skewed. And if I did say it a certain way, then I guess I apologize. But I think what I was trying to say in hindsight is I'm looking for each system to have very, very strong launch titles. And it's not so much about exclusives. It's more about strong launch titles. And if they happen to be exclusives as well, that's fine. But I think really what I was getting at that particular evening when we recorded was having these systems have a stronger lineup from the get-go, because usually when most systems come out, the launch titles, whether they're exclusive or not, are generally not super strong. And there's usually like one or two, and people kind of play it and beat it, and then they kind of play it and beat it over and over, just desperately waiting for like the next game. And I just feel like overall, a lot of these consoles, when they come out, they have a very soft launch. And I suppose that's okay, but I think it would be nice to see these consoles come out with a fucking bang, dude. Like 2, 3, 4 games that are just amazing to kind of just really lock people in, and not necessarily make a decision between the two systems, but just have a really competitive, strong lineup where, people can be like, you know what, maybe I'll get both. Maybe I'll get one. I don't know. But that's, I think, really where I was going with it. And I don't know if I was really so much harping on the exclusive side of things.
So let's focus on the exclusive side of things, because what you're saying doesn't really address his question.
It doesn't. But I think that the reason why I kind of had to reword it that way is because I'm not so sure, like, let me say this. You raise a good point, and it's one that I can't argue. Like, in terms of, having exclusives that do kind of separate the community can certainly be annoying, because I think that I agree with you from a consumer point of view. It does seem better for titles to be multi-platform to give people the choice to play a game. I agree with that. And I think that's where I'm kind of torn. I think I like exclusives, and I think that it is kind of nice to have them. But I think my opinion is still in a sort of gray area with this, and perhaps that's why I'm not able to give like a very firm answer.
Okay, well, I'll take a stand.
Sure.
I think exclusives are fine. I don't think there's anything wrong with them. In fact, I think exclusives are good for the industry because it forces developers of both games and systems to use those systems to their fullest potential, their fullest strength, and to breed innovation. I think that if every game was available on every platform, nobody would do anything innovative. Developers would take the path of least resistance to get their product on as many platforms as possible.
I can agree with that.
They would ignore unique features. Think of that like motion controls on like this the Switch, or like the Wii or the Wii U, for example. I think those are systems that are very unique. They wouldn't use the speaker on the PlayStation in a creative way, on the controller. They wouldn't use the Xbox to its strengths or the PlayStation to its strengths. If every game was available on every platform, I don't think games would grow in the same way. And I think that Patrick is looking at this from the point of view of a PC gamer, where they can play whatever the fuck they want most of the time anyway. There are very few games that are available on PCs that are not available on consoles, or vice versa. So when you're doing all of your gaming on a PC, of course you want to do all of your gaming on a PC. Why would you bother with a console? Why would you bother with a PlayStation or an Xbox? But if those games are available on all platforms and there's no reason to own a Nintendo Switch, or there's no reason to own an Xbox when I own a PlayStation already, why would I bother buying those systems in the first place? Why would Nintendo innovate? Why would Microsoft bother making an Xbox Series X? There's no reasons for these companies. Eventually what's going to happen is people are going to pick their favorite platform in a generation. They're going to continue to support it. And little by little, I feel like these other platforms are just going to cease to exist because there's no reason to buy them.
I think you might have answered this perfectly, Drew. I was listening very carefully there, and I think you really kind of pulled out the sort of subconscious inner answers that I was looking for in my mind. And I agree with all of that. I think, when I look at this and when I was thinking about it as you were speaking there, why would we have a PlayStation or an Xbox if all the games are just going to be all the same and maybe there's different processing powers on whatever? I think exclusives help define why that system is the way it is, and that's building on what you said. Having a game like the Uncharted series, let's take Uncharted 4, perfect. Absolute masterpiece. I have not completed it, but what I have played has been astounding. And there's a certain Sony quality about that particular franchise. That's why it is theirs.
Sure.
They're able to do what Xbox can't, and Xbox is able to do things that PS or Sony can't.
Right.
So that is, I think, a sort of healthy divide that in a lot of ways really does create a strong community, because it does create a lot of conversations such as, oh, dude, you got to get a PS5, man, or you got to get a PS4, you got to play Uncharted 4. And sometimes that can lead into a very healthy discussion versus, obviously you get a lot of people that are very fanboy, where they'll be like, oh, dude, Xbox sucks. And, we all know that the age group there is generally a lot lower than probably most of our audience. But, that's... I'm not trying to single those people out, but you get what I'm saying. And I think that it's important to have different games for different systems, because it really does help that particular software and platform grow in their own unique way.
Can you imagine if Sony owned studio, who makes God of War? I can't remember the name of it.
It is Sony, and it's,
is it Insomniac?
No, it's not it's fucking Santa Monica.
Santa Monica, okay.
Yeah.
Can you imagine if they made it for the Xbox? right? As well as the PlayStation 4. A Sony-owned studio is making a game for platforms other than their own system, right? Why would they have any incentive to make that version on the Xbox better?
Yeah, I mean, I think if like it just got announced, say like a month from now, that the new God of War came out for Xbox One,
Yeah,
I would probably be like, huh, that's kind of weird. Like that's a Sony like franchise.
yeah,
That's
right.
it just does it wouldn't feel right. Would I feel any different beyond that particular feeling? I'm not sure. Because I'm not a huge God of War person, but I think it would leave like a strange aftertaste.
Yeah.
Where I'd be like, huh, that just doesn't seem right.
The other thing too is like I have no desire to play Breath of the Wild on my Xbox. I have no desire to play Halo on my PlayStation. I go to those systems to have that experience.
Correct.
On that system. And I feel like going multi-platform takes away from that. Financially, ultimately, you're looking at a monopoly on a system. And again, I think this kind of goes to the PC players who are like, well, fuck it. I own a PC. I want to play on a PC all the time anyway. And the PC will probably win. Good for you. I don't want to spend $2,000 on a rig every 5 years.
Yeah, I think, you know...
And I have more to say too. I'm not.
Yeah, let's see. I'm fucking. I've got the little like. What is that thing that you use to like blow smoke on a fucking fire, or like you blow the
bellows?
You blow the wind. Yeah, that's what I'm doing to you right now, dude. I'm doing the hand motion and everything.
So here's the other thing. Let's flip this around. Let's say a company wants to come out with a new system, right? Let's say Atari comes out with a new system. And I'm just using them as an example. I know Atari's a joke right now. They have hotels, big fucking deal.
Yeah.
But Intellivision's a great company because they're coming out with the Intellivision Amiga, right? Is it Amiga? I don't remember. But Tommy Tallarico's gung-ho about this fucking thing. He's going to revolutionize video games, right? Whatever. What sets that system apart? Why would I buy that? If I can play all the games that they're going to carry on a system that I already own, why would I be interested in that? Google Stadia is a great example of a system that brings nothing new to the table aside from the technology of cloud streaming. And it didn't even do it that great. So why would I buy a Google Stadia when the games that they're bringing to the table are games that I can already own? So
yeah, these are really good points.
Yeah, like from a consumer point of view, yeah, it's more money. Like I get that, but if you can't afford to buy all the systems, don't buy all the systems.
Yeah, I mean that's how I've always been. I mean, generally speaking, most of my gaming career I've owned multiple systems in order to play multiple exclusives and to be able to game with certain people that have certain systems. Lately, though, over the past few years, I have been a little bit more choosy about that, and I have really kind of fallen back into my roots, which is more of a Sony guy. Sure. And a lot of people might fault me for that and say, well, see, there you go, you're part of the problem. But no, it's just it's what I prefer.
That's fine. Like the experiences that you can have on your Sony PlayStation are more in line with what you as a gamer want out of your games.
100%.
And there's nothing wrong with that.
Nope. And I think that's where exclusives do matter, because the exclusives, I mean, one of the questions which we'll get to later, my answer is kind of along the lines of what we're discussing. Like that particular system and company aligns with what I like. And it's so much more than just the games. It's the software, it's the hardware, it's the sleekness, it's the... Everything about it is in tune with kind of how I carry myself. Like I'm very OCD about things, and there's just something about Sony products that just seems to align with that. So, you know, it's a big picture question. I think it's a great question, and hopefully, you can understand kind of where we're coming from, and you know, have a better insight on why we feel the way that we do. And I think overall, I think you really answered the question for me, Drew. Like I said earlier, it was hard for me to kind of form it into words and form a real opinion on it. But now that you've mentioned everything you said, it really does help me understand, as well as hopefully other people, why exclusives matter.
Yeah. Patrick, though, I think it was a great question, and hopefully I answered it in a way that will make you realize how wrong you are. But in all seriousness, though, like, I would love to hear your feedback on this, and anybody's feedback, really, too. Tell us what you guys are thinking. Do you agree with me? Do you agree with Will? Or are we just both assholes that don't know what we're talking about? And both are probably right, depending on your point of view. But I mean, it's a good topic, and I feel like I could probably spend another 10 minutes talking about it, but we do have other questions to move on to. Hopefully I was succinct enough in my reply.
Yeah, I think so. I think that we covered that well.
So let's move on to the next one. We'll just go right down the list. This one comes from Drat. Thanks for sending this in, Drat. Is the Division 2 New York update what the game needs, or is this more of a Destiny 2 seasonal meh? I have to be completely honest with you, Drat. I played the Division 2 for a couple hours when I got my Xbox One X because it came with it, and I kind of checked out, so I don't really know a ton of what's going on. But I guess they're coming out with a pretty big expansion. I kind of looked it up real quick, and it looks like they're blowing open the story. They're going back to New York City, which they did in the first game, and adding a lot of new content, and it's being compared in a way to how Destiny had the Taken King expansion, which kind of like refocused the game and where they were heading.
Yeah, my contribution to this is not going to be super large either. I think the game looks cool. It's one of those kind of games that I think is fun to watch when you're watching like high-level players, because it's quite strategic.
Yeah.
Damien plays a lot of, Division 2 and games that are very similar. So from like a standpoint of like realism and just kind of gameplay, I think it looks great. I can say that I believe it just went on sale for $2.99 recently, right?
I think yes, on the Xbox.
I think it did.
Xbox One, you can pick it up for $2.99. I don't know if that's still available. That was last week.
Yeah, it was probably just like a flash thing, but yeah, I don't have a whole lot to add, man. I don't know much about it. I've seen, snippets here and there, and I think it's pretty cool, like I said, to watch, but I just personally don't have any opinion on it or interest just because it's not my kind of thing. But, But, I was pretty surprised to see that sale. I can say that much.
Yeah. I mean, basically the way I see it is with this game, and really any type of game like this, whether it's Anthem or Destiny or, any one of those kind of massive multiplayer or open world things, you have a core audience and you must do everything in your power to maintain them. Otherwise the game will fail. And if this is what that game needs in order to keep their existing audience, then I am all for it. But I don't think they're going to get any new players out of it. I think they have the players they're going to get. They might get a couple stragglers here and there, maybe some people revisiting it from the past. I've moved on. I think the game was good. I enjoyed what I played of it, but there's not enough there to keep me. At least not enough for me, I guess, is the way to put it.
Yeah, that's fine.
So, moving down the line here, let's go to Raffy Fatfingers. Top 5 movies, go.
Interstellar, Braveheart, The Last Samurai, The Curious Case of Benjamin Button, and Fight Club. And quite possibly in that order.
Fight Club is on my list, but I got to be completely honest with you. I really, I kind of put this off as part of my planning for today, and that didn't happen. So, I really didn't get very far in my list, but I have The Matrix on my list as well.
Great choice.
And then it's kind of a toss-up between Star Trek 2 and Star Trek 6.
Okay.
I can go back and forth between those movies depending on the day. But those are like the only movies that I really had an opportunity to come up with, because there's not a lot of movies that I can just like sit down and watch over and over and over and over again. I'm just not that kind of movie person.
Yeah, I think a lot of us were. But, when you get older, some of that stuff changes and you get a lot more selective with what you want to watch more than once.
Yeah.
I think Fight Club is definitely something that I could watch like once a year.
Sure.
Because it just has that sort of that rewatchability
Yeah.
Which I think it's like a refresher course. I was actually just telling somebody at work how that movie is good to watch once a year because it kind of puts you in check. When you start getting out of line and you start like fucking around with stupid stuff, you know, you got Tyler Durden that's telling you that you're not your fucking khakis.
Right.
And, you know, it's good to kind of get that smack over the head.
Yeah. That is a pretty powerful film.
It is.
And he's a really powerful author too, Chuck Palahniuk. Big fan of his. If you want to read books that make you feel like you're just the scum of the earth, check his shit out. So.
Yeah, it's funny, and my buddy at work might actually listen to this episode. He was the one who told me about that guy, Chuck. What is it? How do you say his last name?
Palahniuk.
Okay, that's not exactly easy, but
no.
Yeah, he told me about him, and I think he was on the Joe Rogan podcast somewhat recently, and he was telling him some pretty crazy stories.
Yeah, that guy's he's a cool dude, but he's got some fucked up shit in his head.
Yes.
And you know what the crazy thing is like from all accounts that I've seen of him, like he seems like a pretty normal person.
No comment. I just don't know anything about him yet.
I follow him on social media and I never see like, you know, hey, I was on this like drug induced bender the other day or anything like that, you know? But yeah. So, moving down the line here, let's see here. Joe Donut says, what video game songs are so memorable for you that you'll get them stuck in your head without any context? For me, it's Conker's Bad Fur Days, Windy and Company. And he has asked me to edit these into the podcast for us to enjoy as well.
Okay.
So, there may be a little post-production magic going on here. We'll see how much time I have.
Yeah, I want to do a deep dive on that game at some point, whether it's on the show or just personally, because I understand there's quite a history with that particular game.
Conker? Yeah.
That particular game, yeah. I don't know if there was ever another one, but I know that, I want to say, wasn't it like banned or something, or like, there was some pretty crude shit going on in that game, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's a game for adults on a Nintendo platform is really kind of what it boils down to.
Yeah.
So... I don't know about any bannings, but, you know, it is a highly sought out game. And for collectors, it's a big moneymaker.
Yes. I would say my choice would be Final Fantasy Tactics Ovelia's theme. I just posted that recently for Music Monday. that song literally will enter my head without warning. And it's not a bad thing. For anybody that knows that theme, it's incredibly catchy. And it's very orchestral, very Final Fantasy. I wrote that one down, and then I also put a few tracks from Final Fantasy VII, nothing specific.
Okay.
But yeah, generally those two games have obviously amazing soundtracks, and generally some of those themes do get stuck in my head randomly. And believe it or not, there's nothing from, Asura's Wrath or Sekiro or any of my cool games that enter my head, on their own will. So
I didn't get as much time to dive into this one as I wanted to, but something that stood out to me was the Dr. Mario has like a couple themes that you can play. You can choose which song you want to hear when you're playing the game, and I think it's like I can't remember the name of it, but it's the main one that people usually hear when they play Dr. Mario because they're too lazy to change the setting.
Okay.
I'll edit it into the show if I remember, but it just is one of those earworms that just gets stuck in my head. I'm like humming it now as I'm thinking about it.
Yeah. Dude, an earworm is so real.
Yeah.
I've had songs stuck in my head for like not only a whole day, to the point where I'm like, am I going fucking nuts?
Yeah.
And then like one time, dude, like it was stuck in my head so much, I can't remember what song it was. I actually went on Google and I was like trying to find out if I was going to like lose my fucking mind. And it turned out like that's how I found out about earworms. And I was like, oh my God, thank God.
Yeah.
But it was my own fault. I was listening to like a particular CD, or not a CD. Jesus, what is this? Fucking 2000. I was listening to a soundtrack or something, or just a particular album. And I was listening to it a lot, like in the car. So it was inevitable that was going to happen. But it was just kind of a shocking thing. Like when you discover something like that happening for the first time, you can actually convince yourself that like you're going fucking nuts, because it was literally, I could not get it to stop.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, it was like a pretty severe case of an earworm, which can happen. And I found out too that sometimes like high levels of stress will make it worse. And on top of it, if you are convinced that it won't get out of your head, then it'll make it even worse on top of that. So I then learned that if that ever does happen, just let it pass, let it go through. And sometimes even listening to the song again can help your brain to kind of get rid of it.
Yeah, you just got to kind of ride the wave, I guess.
Yeah, but it's kind of a weird thing.
Yeah, it is. I'm pretty fortunate. I don't get a lot of earworms.
Yeah, it doesn't happen often. I would say like maybe 3-4 times out of the year, I'll get like a pretty bad one.
Yeah, that sounds about right for me. Moving down the list here, Puxor asks, if you were Mortal Kombat characters, what would your fatalities be, and what would be the button combination What would the button combination be to perform them?
You sick man. I actually wrote here in my notes, "This is sick. Who do you think we are?" I can tell you this though, Pux. The button combo would be X X circle circle X, because I'm terrible at fatalities. So I'd make it very easy. And honestly, I had a hard time thinking of what it would be. I've thought of some pretty fucked up shit before. We all have, but I was not able to think of anything refreshing because I've seen a lot of Mortal Kombat Fatalities, and they're pretty fucking creative. And there's been a lot that they've done that at this point, if you want to be like, oh, dude, I would twist his fucking neck off until it snapped, and then I would like roundhouse kick it across the fucking football field, and it would be epic. It's already been done, dude.
Right.
And that's, I'm serious, like that kind of like level of just obscenity has already been executed by Ed Boon and the rest of the team. So I think it's a great question, but I think it's really hard to answer that one.
Yeah, it's hard to be more creative than they have been. So I'm like, well, I'll just like shoot fucking lasers out of my eyeballs and like my fingertips and my toes and fucking shred people in half like Johnny Mnemonic.
Okay.
And the button combination would have to be jab, jab, toward short fierce.
Okay. Why is that? Is that just something you kind of like remember?
It's a raging demon, bro.
Huh. I think I've done that a couple times.
Get the fuck out of here.
I think I have done it a couple times, but I probably had a hard time doing it.
I'm sure you probably like remapped it to like XX circle XX or some shit.
Yeah, or just like 2 buttons on the arcade stick. I remember I actually did have a couple supers or something kind of mapped that way. Was that just like an Akuma only move?
Well, ultimately it was also Evil Ryu and
yeah.
I think there were a couple other characters, but Akuma is the main one. Like, when people think of the Raging Demon, they tend to think of Akuma.
Yeah, it is a good one. It's creative. You'll never know what he's actually doing, but it doesn't matter.
Well, he's killing you.
Yeah, and then his stance at the end is pretty legendary. So
that would make a great tattoo. That Akuma's logo.
Oh fuck yeah, it absolutely would.
I had always considered that as a possible gaming tattoo.
Yeah, and super iconic too. I mean, like that.
Totally.
People would stop you at like a con for that. They'd be like, "Oh, dude, like nice Raging Demon, like finisher."
Yeah.
Dude, is that Akuma in the final, Raging Demon stance? Badass, dude. That shit's rad. Like you get a lot of those kind of things happening.
I would just get the kanji that's on his gi,
Sure.
And get that, done. I wouldn't get like Akuma himself.
Oh, okay.
But not. I mean, there wouldn't be anything wrong if somebody did. Like, I'm sure there's a way to make that look awesome, but I certainly couldn't think about it. Let's see here. Moving down the list. Let's go to. Let's see here. Joe Donuts, have you ever gotten all the trophies or achievements in game? If so, which one? If not, have you ever wanted to?
This one's easy for me. The answer is just no. I've gotten pretty close to getting all of the trophies and or achievements in a game. I'm pretty sure it's more trophy based, just because again I'm more of a Sony guy. But generally, I've touched on this before in previous episodes. I'm not a big trophy or achievement guy. If it happens, cool, but I certainly don't seek them out. I know a lot of people like to platinum games, and I just don't really have a desire. Nor have I really explored that side of gaming, like really like looking them up and being like, okay, I got to do this to get that. Right. I am kind of a completionist. I do like to have a no stone unturned kind of mentality most of the time, but it depends on the game. So yeah, I guess that's kind of my answer to that.
I've always wanted to 100% the Mass Effect games.
Okay. It makes sense for you.
I think I may have gotten 100% on some of those Burger King games that came out for the 360, though. Like Sneak King. Remember those?
Burger King games?
Yeah, so on the 360, Burger King did this promotion where they came out with like 2 or 3 games for the Xbox. And it was like one of them was called Sneak King. And you played as the Burger King mascot, the King. And you snuck around. And if my memory serves me correctly, you like had to sneak up on people that were hungry and give them a burger.
Dude, how was this not your answer to a guilty pleasure?
Because it's a dumpster fire of a game.
It certainly sounds like it, man. Holy shit. No, I am not aware of these at all. Yeah,
there were 3 games. One of them was like Pocket Bike Racer. Let's see here. Burger King 360 games. I gotta look them up. Oh yeah, there's also one called Big Bumpin'. And it's like a bumper car thing. Here, I'm gonna send you a link to this old TechCrunch article. Or maybe
I feel like Big Bumpin' is like a part 2 to our round table of Get to Steppin'.
Kind of. Oh yeah, here's a Wikipedia or Amazon article. I'm going to shoot your way. Amazon listing for all 3 games.
That was just quite the send.
Yeah, I send with authority. My mechanical keyboard.
Absolutely do.
And you could go to the drive-through. Like you could go to the drive-through and get all 3 of these games in one shot. Like I actually have them.
Oh, I recognize that. Okay. You know what? No, I do not recognize these at all.
No.
I also think that the Burger King like face dude is kind of creepy.
Oh, fuck yeah.
Imagine seeing that dude if he was like real at 3:30 in the morning in your bedroom.
No.
And he like smells of like rotten burgers.
No.
Exactly.
Do not want that.
Yeah. Even if he was like a human wearing that mask, it would be like the equivalent of like, F Society or some shit, or like V for Vendetta. I'm just like, oh my God.
But yeah, as far as like the actual original question goes, I think I may have gotten a 100% on Sneak King. But I don't remember. I'd have to go look, and I don't really give a shit enough to look.
Yeah, don't.
I'm
over it.
Yeah. But like any RPG that I play, like that temptation is certainly there to 100% or platinum that game. Like if I could platinum Horizon, that would be awesome. Horizon Zero Dawn.
Yeah. Yeah, one of my buddies at work was actually asking me if I've played that game, and I was like, well, I played about an hour or so, and my co-host has played a shit ton of it, and hasn't beaten it yet because it's just that large. But yeah, it's just like I almost kind of like grow weary of those kind of conversations because I'm like, oh man, like I'm gonna get like excited about it, and it's gonna like derail my continuation of my current game, so I can't listen to you anymore.
You just gotta stay focused, man.
That's it.
Moving along here, Drat asks, Mortal Kombat or Street Fighter? Game/movie series favorite and why?
Okay, 2 parts.
I'm not sure what he means by game/movie series favorite.
I think I do. I didn't understand it quite at first either, but I think what he's asking here is, do you have like a game series favorite and why, and or a movie series favorite and why, or both?
Out of Mortal Kombat or Street Fighter, or just in general?
I think it might be in general. That's kind of how I perceived it, because I don't think Street Fighter. Well, you know what? I think it is based on. Based on those two, because they both do have a movie and a game series. So
the Street Fighter movies are. Movie. Well, actually, no, they did come out with more than one, didn't they?
Wasn't it just one live action one?
I think they came out with something more recent that focused on Chun-Li.
Oh yeah, I think you're right. They did,
but I never saw it.
I mean, if this is the case, I'll answer this real quick. Mortal Kombat, definitely, obviously, the game series is better than the movie series. There is a new movie coming out. I want to say this year or next. I actually know who's playing Jax. The movies are certainly charming. I'll give it that. I liked them when I was younger, and there are some elements of those movies that are quite cool, but most of it's trashy. And then Street Fighter, in regards to the movie, horrible. Game series, wonderful. The animated series, or the animated movie of Street Fighter, was very good, the anime. And in terms of why, I think I feel like I explained that already. Yeah, I mean, it's just quality versus trash in the game versus movie department, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think that's perfectly fair. I do have a soft spot for the original Mortal Kombat movie, the first one that came out in like the mid-90s.
It's good. It's good.
Yeah, and there was a lot about it that really resonated with me, especially back then, because the soundtrack was kind of iconic. That Mortal Kombat, that had that house music going in the background and whatnot.
Oh fuck yeah! It's like one of the best screams ever.
Really is. But I think as far as like a game series, I would have to go with Street Fighter over Mortal Kombat, even though I do enjoy like some of those early Mortal Kombat games. But I've always been more of a Street Fighter fan. And if I had to pick a favorite for Street Fighter, it would be Street Fighter Alpha 3. I think that's the pinnacle of the game franchise.
Mm-hmm.
As far as Mortal Kombat 2 would probably be the pinnacle for me. So, yeah. Good question.
Yeah.
Bearman chimes in. Drat, I think what you meant is, what is your favorite TV series and why is it Stargate SG-1 / Star Trek / Babylon 5? oh man, boy. After my own heart. Yeah, what is your favorite TV series?
So TV series, I mean, this is a tough one. It's been debatable over the years. It's always been a mixture of Mad Men, The Sopranos, Breaking Bad, and House of Cards. Those have all been sort of toss-ups. If it had to be favorite man, I mean, honestly, I think I probably would go with Mad Men because even though it is mainly focused on advertising, which is not exactly a huge thing that I'm into, the storyline of Don Draper, played by John Hamm, is just such an amazing, compelling story of a man who is so troubled and yet so genius at the same time, that I think that I really found that to be very intriguing. So, I think I'm safe at this point to probably say Mad Men. Close second, probably Breaking Bad. I know that's a lot of other people's favorite show, but there's a reason for it. It's a masterpiece.
Yeah, you picked some really quality programs in your list there. Breaking Bad, it would be pretty high on my list. It is excellent. I also really enjoy Better Call Saul, which is going to be beginning its final season in a couple weeks, if I'm not mistaken. I'm kind of in tune with Bearman. I'm a big sci-fi geek. Star Trek Deep Space Nine is probably my favorite Star Trek. Babylon 5 is really quite up there, as is Battlestar Galactica, the reboot. Those are excellent shows if you're staying in the sci-fi genre. But if you're going to branch out beyond that, we're looking at stuff like, like I'm a big fan of like Parks and Rec. Parks and Recreation is I think, tremendous comedy. Mr. Robot, even though I have not finished the last season, great show. Really enjoyed that one.
Forgot to mention that. That's definitely in there.
Yeah, I'm surprised you didn't have that in your list. I figured it was just an oversight.
I totally forgot, yeah.
What else is there? I mean, there's so many great shows that have aired over the years. Cartoon-wise, Futurama. I don't think there's a better cartoon that's ever been written. As far as like cartoon series go. Mm-hmm. Nothing that's been smarter and more emotional and more clever and funnier. And I could put on Futurama. Futurama is probably my most quotable cartoon ever. I can find a Futurama animated GIF for any situation. It's a skill. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I guess I would have to go with those.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I can't relate to all of them, but certainly a nice little lineup.
Thank you. Vortex asks, what's the favorite gun from any game you've played?
This is a really good one. I had a hard time with this because there aren't too many games that I've been playing currently that involve guns, except for like the occasional BF1 or Titanfall or something like that. What did I put down for this? I put a Cerebral Bore, actually, from Turok 2. Most of the weapons in the Turok series are some of the best weapons I've ever had the pleasure of witnessing and using. They're so over the top and so amazing and fun to use. And then probably the Battlefield guns. I just kind of put these are kind of generalized, but there's a lot of good guns in Battlefield. And I remember just having like my sort of go-to setups that were all customized, and I was really, really good with some of those guns. So yeah, a mixture between Battlefield and Turok, and more specifically, like I had mentioned, the Cerebral Bore, which was a disgusting weapon, where you launched off this like sort of honing little device thing, and it would go onto like your enemy's head and drill into their fucking head.
Jesus Christ, man.
Yeah, it was called the Cerebral Bore.
What is
And yeah,
wrong with
it
you?
bore right into the cerebral, man.
I thought like it was gonna just, like this like wild boar would show up and start like talking about like philosophy with you.
Oh God. Yeah, no. What do you got?
The plasma rifle from Doom 1 and 2 would be one of my favorite early games. I love the way that the way that gun sounded, the way it fired, the visuals of it, and how enemies reacted to it. Everybody was always, the BFG, but man, like I was a plasma rifle guy. But if we're going a little bit more modern, I think the first time I ever held the gravity gun in Half-Life 2, that was like a life-changing moment for me, because that gave me an opportunity to interact with the game, in any game, in a way that I never had before, and created some of the most memorable situations with battles with enemies or dealing with environmental puzzles. On the same kind of trajectory, the portal gun from Portal 1 and Portal 2. It doesn't shoot weapons or, ammunition. It shoots, portals and it gives you a whole new understanding of how to play a video game. And that is a franchise that, I would love to have you play one of these days.
Yeah, I did see sort of gameplay on it recently when I was mentioning earlier that I was watching some YouTube videos in bed. That same channel, they did talk about Portal 2 in one portion of their conversation, as one of their greatest games of like the decade or something. I can't remember, but it looked so good, and it looks like it held up incredibly well as well.
One of the great things about Valve's game engines are they build things that are really meant to stand the test of time.
Truly,
they're easy to scale up based on the hardware, and they've patched Half-Life 2 for 4K, if I'm not mistaken.
Wow.
So like that's something that I'd love to like circle back to and replay one of these days, because it's been a very long time since I've gone through Half-Life 1 and 2, and I mean they're just tremendous games. The Half-Life franchise is really high up on my favorites list, and I kind of need to rediscover why. But Portal as well, even though they're separate universes, I kind of consider them part and the same. And, they've been teased a little bit here and there as being connected, although it's never been firmly established. But, the Portal 2 is like, the writing in that is so fucking smart and just hilarious. It's brilliant.
Yeah, I remember,
game.
I might have mentioned this also on the show before, but I'm pretty sure I didn't. However, that doesn't matter. I remember watching a couple pretty famous YouTubers play like a co-op run through of that game on YouTube. It was like a whole series that they did, and I remember watching those videos like religiously, and I could listen to like exactly a lot of the stuff that you mentioned about like the clever writing, little quips and wittiness that was just kind of exploding from that game.
The co-op campaign for that. For Portal 2 is one of the most fun experiences I've ever had in gaming.
It certainly seems that way.
It's the kind of thing where you're literally solving puzzles together and, working together to kind of get out of this, this dungeon, this trap, and move on to the next one. So can't recommend it enough. Moving on, Puckstore asks, what's your favorite racing game from the arcades?
This one was pretty much impossible for me. I mean, I've played a handful, over the years, especially obviously when I was younger and arcades were still relevant. I played a lot of Daytona stuff, whatever just kind of looked cool. But I certainly did not ever have like a go-to racing game in the arcades by any means. The last time I played one was, I think, with you guys. You and the rest of us when we went to Barcade years ago, and we talked about the podcast being a thing. Whatever racing game that we played then would have been the last one I have played.
I think it was either Daytona or it was Cruis'n USA.
Yeah, it was one of them.
I believe Daytona. I've always been fond of the Sega racers, in the arcades. I think Sega just got arcade racing. They made it fun.
They did.
I mean, if you want to go back to games like Outrun and shit like that too, but Daytona USA is just a fantastic game. And it still looks great. Like, it's so colorful and just, I don't know, something about it. It's just a lot of fun. Puckstar moves on and asks, what is your opinion on transmedia IP? For example, a single story, a world spanning, for example, books, games, movies, or any subset or superset thereof. Do you generally like it or dislike it? Are there general personal guidelines you have when considering something like a comic, novel, movie, series, game, etc., that ties into a beloved franchise? I.e., do you prefer a retelling of the same story, different story in the same universe, shifting parts of a narrative to a new medium, etc.? So the too long didn't read version of that is, what do you think about intellectual properties that encompass multiple forms of media, and what do you like or dislike about it?
Yeah, I'll still let you run with this one just to kind of, just go ahead and run with it, and I'll build on it if necessary.
So, I mean, like, for me, I'm fine with it, because if it's a universe that I'm really into, like Star Wars, Star Trek, Mass Effect, or whatever, I will try to seek out other forms of other forms of media to kind of experience that. So, like, I think Star Trek is a good example. I kind of low key have a personal goal to try to collect as many of the Star Trek video games as possible. I do own Star Trek books. I do own Star Trek comic books. I own just about everything I can on Blu-ray or DVD, or digitally. I have, model starships and things like that. The problem that I run into when you're dealing with a transmedia IP like Star Trek is whether or not the stories that are told off of television are canon. And that depends on the franchise. I think, Halo, for example, their books were canon. With Star Trek, most of that stuff isn't. If I play a video game, even if it has actors from those shows in the game, those games are typically not canon. I think Star Trek Online might be the only exception, but I'm not too sure to what extent it is. And honestly, I think if the writers wanted to tell a story, they're not going to go looking at Star Trek Online and see if they did something with that already.
Mm-hmm.
So when I'm playing I'm trying to think of a good example. When I'm playing Star Trek Legacy and I'm flying around, with 4 ships trying to take down a Borg cube, in like a skirmish mode, like there's nothing to that. That doesn't go anywhere. That doesn't mean anything. They're never going to reference that game in an episode. Or anything that happens is never going to be referenced in an episode. So it doesn't matter. Star Wars is another good example. Knights of the Old Republic, tremendous game. It will never be referenced on TV. It will never be referenced in a movie. It doesn't matter. And that's okay. That's perfectly fine. Like, if you want to experience these stories, within the universe, but a different part of it, like, that's cool, But those properties are so big that they have rules and regulations to what you can and cannot do. So, like, I guarantee you there's something on the book somewhere that says if you're going to use the Star Wars license, you cannot kill Luke Skywalker. Because, I mean, think about that. Like, if you're going to use that license and all of a sudden you, like, fuck up the storyline and you say, like, oh, Darth Vader's not Luke's father, he's his brother. Well, now you just fucked up everything, right?
Yeah, I suppose you're right.
But yeah, I guess I would prefer a different story in the same universe with different characters or existing characters peppered in when appropriate, but nothing that would damage the original story or the original intention of the show. So, if you have anything to add on that, otherwise I'll move on.
I don't think so, man. I mean, it's just not really a space that I am, I don't know,
You don't function in that world.
I don't function in that particular perspective of things. Yeah, nah, I just don't. I got nothing.
Cool. Bearman with the last question of the night. Time for a legit question. I know you guys asked this during your lightning rounds with your guests. So Sony or Microsoft, and why?
So this is the one that I kind of touched up on earlier in regards to kind of like exclusives and stuff. It kind of ties in with how I feel about Sony. The answer is Sony for me. No surprise, but yeah, man, it's really just about everything. You know, the software, the hardware, everything is in tune with how I like to play games, how I like to experience playing a game. Just the exclusives, the sleekness, the way everything looks, the controller, everything that Sony does, including even just their TVs. I've always been a fan, and I remember having Sony products just kind of growing up, and I've never had any issues with them. I know Vic and some other people have their own kind of gripes with Sony, but knock on wood, I've never had an issue. They've always lasted long. They always have a nice, expensive feel most of the time. And it's just kind of one of those brands that I trust. And sometimes they do put out products that are a little bit complex or somewhat overcomplicated for maybe no apparent reason. But I don't know, man. I'm kind of okay with that. I'm okay with like the tinkering side of things. But to round this out and to kind of sum it up from a gaming perspective, definitely Sony for all the reasons I mentioned above and previously. And yeah, I really enjoy them as a company overall.
I think, like, if we're going, just as a side note, like Sony, generally speaking, with their non-video game products, I tend to agree with you, but I've never been a fan of their audio. I feel like their speakers, their headphones, they have way too much bass and not enough on the high end.
Okay.
And just a personal preference. I'm not saying they're bad quality. I just think that they're like, I would never buy Sony speakers. I would never buy Sony headphones.
I can completely agree with you on that.
Yeah.
I should have actually mentioned that. Like, you know, from an audio perspective, I don't think there's anything Sony that I own. Actually, that's a lie. I think my sound bar is Sony made, but that actually is a like I think it was like a 2015 or 2016 release on that particular soundbar, so it's definitely way better than how their audio used to be. But yeah, it's a good point, actually. It's an important one to bring up because generally speaking, Sony is kind of leading the charge with TVs right now with certain other kinds of hardware, but they've never been a leader in audio.
Yeah, I've always found their audio lacking, and I feel like I can get a better experience from other companies at a fraction of the price.
Yeah.
But, you know, great displays, great TVs. I think they have great picture quality, you know, so as far as that kind of stuff goes, I think it's just really a matter of taste. But as far as like the, you know, lightning round question goes, you know, gun to head, if you said to me in a lightning round, Sony or Microsoft, I'd say Microsoft.
Okay.
But that's just a lightning round answer. I think the answer really is more elaborate than that. And it kind of depends on the situation. You know, I think Microsoft's online knocks Sony out of the park. I don't even think it's a question. I don't even think it's a competition. I really strongly dislike everything about the process of updating a game on the Sony platform. If you have a game update or a dashboard update, you're not playing that game that night. Full stop.
Yeah, that's it, done. Man. 100%.
The Xbox, I don't know what it is, but the games download faster, they install faster, they don't brick your system so you can't use it while it's doing that. And you know, I know there's a way to set the PlayStation to automatically download when you're offline if you have a subscription. I don't have a subscription to PSN, so for me that's not an option. But I love being able to go on my phone and telling my Xbox, hey, I want you to download this game so that I can play it when I get home. And it's there waiting for me. And it's already been patched. And I don't even have to turn the system on. I love that.
Yeah, I can agree with all that stuff, man. I mean, I think each console certainly isn't perfect, and Sony definitely does have some flaws that they have not really fixed over the years. And the PS3 is certainly one that suffers from quite a few. But Yeah, I can agree certainly on the online perspective of Jesus Christ. Sorry, my cat. Microsoft has always been really, really good at creating an online experience that is really second to none. And I remember, I would say actually as of today, the Xbox 360 online experience has been the best online experience I've ever had in my life.
It's hard to argue that.
It's very hard to argue that. And I just cannot tell you how seamless it was for me to get in and out of parties. Everything just seemed to work 99% of the time. And it was just, I don't know, man, they just got it right. And I wasn't a huge fan of kind of the layout of the Xbox One, but that's just my opinion. But I will give the 360, like at the height of their career, their online experience was just really unmatched. And I had an absolute blast. I love the controller. The Xbox 360 controller is one of the best controllers ever made. And even the newest one for the Xbox One is quite comparable.
Yeah, I mean that, there's just not a huge variation between the 360 and the Xbox One controller. They kind of just tweaked it, made it a little bit better or worse depending on your point of view. But it's a pretty comparable controller. But I know you haven't really spent a lot of time with the Xbox One recently. That dashboard has gone through numerous reiterations. They are always updating it, trying to find better ways to display the information on it. I'm not sure where you were when you last used it. I can guarantee you it's not the same now. So I feel like criticizing that dashboard may be a little bit in poor taste because it's not the same anymore. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and that does make total sense, and I can't argue that because I mean the last time that I was tooling around with it was some time ago. It must have been, oh my gosh, let's see, we're in 2020 now, so it was probably, I don't know, 2016 or 17, I think, is the last time I might have had an Xbox. So
yeah,
I mean that was obviously quite some time ago. So I'm sure it's seen quite some changes and quite a few changes. And hopefully for the better, like what you said, it sounds like it has been in a good direction.
Yeah, I think overall they've made some pretty significant improvements. So, well, that does it, man. We've hit the bottom of the mailbag.
We have, and I'm actually really happy that we were able to make a whole episode out of that. I mean,
a long episode.
Yeah, a long episode, longer than usual. And like I said from the beginning, really solid questions with a lot of meat and potatoes here to work with.
Meat and potatoes. Like it. Big fan.
Yeah, because you're a Viking.
I'm a Viking, yes. So on that note, man, did you have anything else you wanted to say before we wrap this up? WDGRPodcast.com. That's it? I don't have to shill anything else? So we'll be back next Wednesday with another episode. And hope you enjoy this one. Come on by. Stay alone in our Discord room, too. If you have any comments or reactions to anything that we've talked about tonight, we'd love to hear from you. Come on by and say hello and let us know how you feel about exclusives, what you would choose in a lightning round, if you had Sony or Microsoft, or even Sony or Nintendo, or Microsoft or Nintendo. Let us know how you feel about transmedia IP. Let us know if Mortal Kombat is better than Street Fighter. And let us know what your favorite earworm video game song is.
Oh, Jesus Christ. Oh, my God.
On that note, I'm going to get the hell out of here. I'm Drew. And that's Will. We'll see you next time.
See you guys.